Hey and welcome everyone to today's video. My name is Julian. On my channel, it's normally all about making you crypto fit. So normally we talk about blockchain, cryptocurrencies, decentralization, and all these other wonderful things that we can invest in, lose money in, have fun with, build businesses on, and so on. But today, I really want to talk about efficient team meetings and why most team meetings are actually shit and how to do them, in my opinion, in a really, really proper way. I learned how to do team meetings actually from one of my mentors. He built a $100 million empire in the US in an insurance business. And so he was always really diligent on talking to me about team meetings. It was like, Julian, what are the things in your business that you hate the most? And I was like, meetings. I hate meetings. I'm always someone who gets distracted. I have a bit of ADHD, so I always need to do something. And I'm always a bit hibbly. And so he always said, hey, you know what? The reason why you don't like meetings is because you don't know how to do them. And that's why your team meetings are shit and they don't really work. So I got taught by him how to do proper team meetings. And I want to be fair. I mean, there's no secret around it. You're going to hear similar explanations, I think, all over the place. And I think there's some key concepts that just are the same wherever you look. And you need to pick out those key concepts and you need to work around those. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go into a screen share and we are going to kind of work those through there. So let's dive right in and let's have a look in how this works. When we are talking about team meetings, we are talking about different steps. And I think one of the most important first steps in team meetings is to have the stakeholders in the room. And this means not more, not fewer, exactly the stakeholders. And I see both mistakes. I see mistakes in team meetings where you have people in that have nothing to do with this meeting. They just want to be in this meeting for the information. If you have people like this who just want to be in the meeting for the information, what's going to happen is you are having shit processes in how you push information out of a meeting to those people. Team meetings are not about status. They're just purely about decision making, in my opinion. Otherwise, team meetings, very questionable. To me, team meetings are mostly around decision making, or if you have like some general kind of setup where it's just about updating the different story. But good team meetings where it's about decision making, always the same story. You need to have the stakeholders in the room. So identify all the stakeholders. It shouldn't be more than 5 or 7 people. Steve Jobs, I think, has been really, really famous in kicking people out of meetings. And I understand why. Never have too many people in the meeting, but never have too few people in the meeting. Because otherwise you sit there and you're like, yeah, actually we would love to make a decision on something, but we're missing Joe. And where's Joe? So this is always a major issue on this. So stakeholders have to be invited into the meeting. Now, what I would do is instead of having a presentation on the topic, there's going to be a decision maker. And this decision maker has to be really clearly designed and designated. It's like a judge almost, right? There has to be someone who's kind of organizing the meeting. And it doesn't have to be the decision maker. It's just, this can be 2 different people. It can be the decision maker. But most of the time it can be that this is on a new product line, or this is on a new feature, or it's about a decision of left or right, or whatever. And you have one person who's just really familiar with the topic, but is not necessarily the decision maker. And what this person has to do has to prepare the information up front. And what I prefer, I hate PowerPoints, so what I prefer is that at the beginning of a meeting, depending on how much content there's an executive summary that the person has to give as input. So it has to write 2, 3, 4 pages of content, puts this down, and then at the beginning of the meeting, 15, 20 minutes, people sit down and they prepare and they study and they understand and they read and they try to familiarize themselves with what's going on in the meeting or what this entire meeting is about. And this is very important in this entire flow. Trust me. Many times I have one person presenting to everyone. Well, then most of the time it depends on the presentation skills. But this is not something you are trying to do, because what you're going to have is you need to have a discussion. And a discussion has to be around facts, data, experience, and so on. It should not be around pure opinion. It should really be about picking out things. And if you have someone who's just really good at presenting, the presenter is going to sway people over. And in the discussion, some other people are not daring to present their facts or present their background. But this is something that's very, very important in this step. So you have this discussion. It's almost like in front of a court, basically, where you're presenting your evidence, and the decision maker has to listen, and the decision maker has to look into it. And this is really, really key, because I'm telling you, most of the time, the decision maker is trying to make a decision based on consensus. It's like, okay, there's 7 people here. Let's try that everyone agrees. This is bullshit. Don't do this. You are a weak decision maker if you're doing this. It's not about deciding on the majority. And this is difficult, I know it. It's also not about listening to the person who presents the facts the best. It's for you as a decision maker, really see yourself more like a judge. Keep yourself a bit out with your opinion, try to be neutral, and then listen to this. If you are not the decision maker, then it's really about presenting data, facts, clear experience. This is what it's all about here. And now, this is where it gets very, very important. The decision maker makes the decision. And making the decision, this is key, means I take the decision based on data, facts, experience, and I am okay with taking the responsibilities, I'm okay with handling whatever the consequences are. But of course, I'm okay with dealing with the downside and the potential upside. And I'm telling you, this is, and we're gonna see the 3 biggest problems that we have in team meetings that I have identified. And one of the big problems is that there's weak decision makers. And it's exactly this point here, where the person doesn't dare to make a decision because if something goes wrong, well, it wasn't me. I mean, we were in this meeting, right? And I mean, it was like, I'm not sure, hey, it was Bob there. No, I didn't do this. This is exactly the culture of bad companies. And it doesn't take long until these companies go south. And the sad thing is, I have been in environments where people are weak. They don't want to make decisions. They don't like to take responsibility. I have no problem. I learned how to do this. I'm okay with the downside. I'm okay with the upside. Everyone always is okay with the upside. The downside is the key thing. So learn this. And I've seen cultures, I've seen environments, and trust me, it takes a few months and then stuff goes south. Because there's nothing worse than not having ownership. And decision makers, right? And at the end, it's the CEO. This is the biggest decision maker in the company. If they are not accountable, trust me, it doesn't take long. And you see examples out there over and over and over again. When there's weak leadership, this is the biggest problem. But now here, and this is now a very key step here, and that's step 5, and this is the buy-in. Every stakeholder, this is now the real key, right? Every stakeholder needs to buy in into the decision. And this is key because we can identify 3 major problems in this. First problem, second problem, third major problem. First one, second one, third one. Now, what are these major problems? Stakeholders, we talked about it. You have too many people in, you don't have everyone in. Major problem. Second problem is the decision maker. So basically it's 2, 3, 4, but I just highlight 4. It's when the decision maker is weak. The decision maker maybe makes up his or her mind up front, is not a fair judge. The decision maker is not, like when you sit in a room, and you have this all the time. Many times if you're in a product company, so for example at Cake, at my company, and we need to make a decision, most of the time the engineers are a bit more quiet. That's very normal. And then you have more the business people, marketing, sales, they're way more talkative and they're way more pushy. So if we need to make a decision there, what happens is you tend to be too quiet with the developers. So you, as a good decision maker, need to specifically go to the engineers and you need to specifically ask, is there something you want to bring up there? Do you think that's a really important point? You need to specifically ask it. Good decision makers do this, right? You need to kind of anticipate that. That's really key. Now the third part, the buy-in. You need people who are willing to be team players. I still remember in my past company, decisions were made that I completely disagree with, right? And it was horrible that I completely disagree with those decisions. But you have to be a team player. So that means you need to buy into what the team decides. And if the decision is A and you really hate A, you still need to buy in. That's what the team is, right? Team. You need to ride together, you need to die together, you need to win together. That's how everything is. And here's the key. If you do not know how to do this because you feel your ego is more important, you don't belong into great teams. If you, as a team lead, notice people who don't have buy-in, you need to get these people out of your team. This is one of the most important things. They are toxic. You need people who, yes, maybe it's going to take them a little bit, right? They don't need to have the buy-in right afterwards, because I know people who are really emotional, right? So they have this huge discussion in step 3 and they're debating and they're trying to throw with facts just like in a courtroom. And then the decision goes the other way. You don't expect them right the next second. They're like, okay, whatever, like I'm going to buy in full on. It might take them a minute, it might take them an hour. I have people, it takes them days, but then afterwards they're like so committed to it, and you just need to learn this. You need to understand how these people are in these situations, so then you're like, okay, fair enough, like now all good, we're ready to rock and roll. And if you do this properly, I promise you, this entire flow doesn't take much time. It's very clear, very simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. And the 3 major problems that I see all the time are with stakeholders, poor decision makers, and then not having team players. And this is something I can assure you that you really need to learn, because it's something that's going to change everything in your organization. And this can be a company, this can be governments, especially in governmental organizations. I see that these are some of the weakest decisions there. The reason is because exactly of that. People don't want to be responsible. So you have all this. You have everyone in meetings, sometimes 100 people, right? Way too many people. Doesn't have to be in there. Why? Because we have this politics stuff that everyone has to be involved. Bullshit. There's so many people who don't have to be involved in decisions. Weak decision makers, because in the government, no one wants ever to be responsible. Yes, if stuff goes great, they want to be responsible. If stuff goes crap, they don't. Why? Because their time horizon way too short. Time horizon, here, super important. Their time horizon, super, super short. And then, at the other hand, you never have buy-in, because you always have these split things. So that's governmental decisions, why they mostly go wrong. And in really, really good company organizations, that's where stuff goes really right. I hope this makes it clear how to get really good at decision making, especially in teams. And team decisions can be some of the best out there. It can be some of the most efficient ways to hold decisions. And it can be some of the best ways to do it, because most of the time, as a team, if you do it right, your decision making is way better than if you're doing it alone. Even though it doesn't feel this way at the beginning. But this is something that's very, very key. So I hope that gives you some value outside of the crypto sphere. And trust me, this can sometimes be 50 times more important and more valuable for your personal life, for business, and so on. And for your relationship. I think that's also very, very important. If it does, please do me a favor. Give me a thumbs up. Like this stuff. Share this. Subscribe. If you're watching this on Twitter, Periscope, LinkedIn, wherever, Facebook, retweet this, reshare this, comment. If you have questions, let me know down below. I'm going to have a quick look into the chat. And then I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Yours truly, Julian. Bye-bye.